Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and this is the day we've been waiting for in the competitive Call of Duty community for a very long time at this point. Over 15 months since the last LAN event, finally we are back in action. Many interesting storylines to run through today, in addition to some spice and drama thrown in for good measure. And tweeting your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, thank you to Draftbuff for sponsoring today's video. If you guys want to get involved in draft rails, this is the perfect time to do so. If you have not already. This is a shout out right here to the top performers so far this entire season. Lord Peen leading the way with plenty of points right now, but certainly a tight race here, right to the very top. These were the winners from last week as well. Ordinary Inside picked a phenomenal team to win it after over 7,000 players in this draft round. If you guys want to join in and get involved. Inside Hydra, aBeZy, Awakening and Cammy. Pretty phenomenal team, all things considered, out of 7,350 people that competed last week. Wanted to mention this as well though, because if you guys are trying to win this thing, you probably want to get good at using these buffs that have just been added to my draft rail. Effectively, this is a booster time deal. There's a few options right here. For example, King of the Jungle, you get 25 points if you add this to your best fantasy performer, but if you get it wrong, you lose 10. So if you're good at this type of stuff, it probably can tip the balance in your favor. These are another couple of ones as well, and this is the team that I've gone with for this week, but I'm sure if you guys copy my team, you'll lose, because I always tend to lose these type of things. You guys always get the better of me. If you want to compete with my team and have a good time and things with a fantasy Call of Duty, the link, of course, will be down below. Dashy, Huke, Hydra, Simp and Octane, it shouldn't be too bad, all things considered. Thanks for dropping by once again. Let us dive right in, because on this day, pretty much yesterday, that being now 2 years ago, Anaheim was won by 100 Thieves. What a team this was at the time, and yeah, just crazy to think about how things were in the Call of Duty scene a couple of years past before the CDL was even a thing and LAN events were still happening on a regular basis. Speaking of 100 Thieves, though, I did think this was kind of interesting, because this Modok says reunited Kenny and Octane, as you can see right here. Certainly some discussion on what might potentially happen between these two players next season, especially if things aren't going too pretty for Los Angeles Thieves, and maybe we'll see how that plays out this weekend, right? Because I'm so excited to see, because players have been talking for months, right? They're going to get back to LAN, they're going to start dominating, they're going to put up massive numbers on the main stage. Now, will that happen? Will that play out in reality? Will the young guns struggle? Will that not be the case at all, right? Maybe where there's no crowd, it doesn't make too much difference. There's many question marks this weekend, which are going to be answered. We've been waiting for this moment, to be honest, for months at this point. This is kind of funny as well. It's cool seeing the players actually back in this type of environment, right? As Revan says, father, son, ping pong game, that big clay on the left, Hydra here on the right. Apparently Hydra got the better of him. Apparently Hydra's just good at everything, it seems. Ping pong, he can play all sorts of games at a very high level, so cool to see. I thought this was funny as well from the Dashy side. First day of school vibes. Tej said play him in ping pong for 10 racks. His words, not mine. I might be undefeated against you, no BS, says TJ. So certainly some storylines to keep your eyes on this weekend. There's another storyline with TJ we'll talk about here in a few minutes time, but honestly, so many of the matchups are going to be, well, incredibly interesting, and hopefully we get some great ones. Like, to start off the tournament, we've got some fantastic ones. I'd like to see some of them, well, some of these teams make a deep run, get some cracking matchups on LAN. I mean, there's nothing better than that if we get a good finish to the tournament as well. This I thought was cool from Crone. Another look at the stage. This is like a low quality one, but he does put a better quality one on screen right here. This came out, I'm pretty sure, like Seattle initially tweeted this out, and as you can see what the stage is looking like right now, you got some players here in the front. Joe and Nubsy and the boys having a good time getting ready for their match, I suppose. They're going to be playing tomorrow up against London Royal Ravens, I believe they play. We'll look at, of course, the games later in the video. Wanted to mention this as well, some challenges stuff going on that we'll talk about here in just a second. Some roster shuffles, as it tends to be every single week at this point. Methods, Slacked Sainton, Hamza, Civ Jimbo, Fire and Accuracy, and Parasite Z, Jordan, Zinc seems to be a squad going on as well, but who knows whether that will have changed by, well, the time this video goes live. This comes up from Cred. I thought this was really cool to see. These are all the players that have never played a LAN event as a pro player, right? So, of course, there's some of these players have played LANs in the past, but that's before they were a pro player. Now, you can look at Awakening, Clinics, and Insight as well and say whether they were pros when they played at Black Ops 4 Champs, but some of these guys, like Mac, for example, Hydra, Standy, Porlex, Afro, and Neptune, all players that have not played a LAN event, at least as a pro. Now, that's really interesting, right? Like, who knows what happens this weekend, and what impact it could potentially make. I mean, Tim players talk about for months, right, that players, Scump's talked about when he looked in the white to their eyes, that's why they get nervous and stuff like this, which, fair enough, right? And I want to see how that plays out in reality, whether without a crowd it's too much of a big deal, or whether these guys will underperform, whether these guys will, like, super turn up, whether some of the veterans that have been really looking forward to come back to LAN won't perform quite as they were hoping to, and of course, maybe they play only like 1 or 2 series, right? So it might be tough to say how things might go in the long term, but yeah, honestly, really, really exciting stuff. Cool to see the players back in action. Of course, it's maybe not the perfect event, there's no crowd as of yet, the casters aren't there, all these type of things, but still, a step in the right direction, most certainly, as I like to say. Now, this I thought was particularly entertaining, a little bit of drama in the challenger scene, before we talk about some of the key storylines and matchups matchups for the day. OpTic versus Dallas, most certainly. But as Mork says, I just got called ugly by Doug Censor for not picking him at 8s. I have seen it all. Now, interesting the whole 8s discussion, right? Because there's been quite some talk from the pros, the fact that, yeah, 8s don't even seem to happen between the pro players, which is just where you pick 2 captains, and then they choose the players they want to play with out of a pool of players that want to play. Then you play an 8 series. Typically, it would be for money. I'm not sure they're allowed to do that nowadays. But anyway, Doug Censor was obviously wanted to get picked up into these 8 series, and well, wasn't particularly happy that Morks didn't pick him up. Morks puts the tweets right here, or the DMs that he had. Then be a captain. I won't waste my time with it. I don't know what to tell you. You don't have to say anything. I'm not looking for anything. I see your face, and I just know you're taking an L. Enjoy the captainates. Go around and get some kills, and lose by 70, says Censor. So maybe not particularly happy that well, Morks did not pick him for this 8 series, most certainly, and maybe a little bit of frustration the fact that New York didn't decide to get him, or Seattle didn't decide to get him in the Pro League. But I suppose that was relatively unlikely, all things considered. Regardless, this I thought was great from OpTic Chicago. Scump, I think he's always talked about how he likes to watch these like nature and sea documentaries, this type of stuff. So this is him right here catching up on all his whale knowledge, I guess, of well, the deep blue sea. And well, Scump getting all the knowledge in. There's no way they're losing a series when Scump is well fueled up by the sperm whale information. Let's just say that this comes out from well, Lineman put this on the Breaking Point stuff yesterday, because Formal versus Crimsix is well, clearly the major storyline of the day. Now this is a pretty crazy actually versus card between the two of them, because Formal's like a top 5 player of all time. You can certainly put him in that ballpark. But like the performance, like the resume that Crimsix has is just outrageous, right? Like if you look at this, 77 pro events, average placing of like 3, series win-loss is just ridiculous. Finals appearances 48, won 37 events in his career. Head-to-head is actually 8-8, which is very nice, right? It sets things up very nicely indeed. And look, I doubt both of these teams are going to be making the finals to see how this record could potentially go. And a COD champs have actually never played up against each other, because most of the time they have been indeed on the same team. But still, Formal versus Crimsix, we talked about the discussion the other day. I mean, there was certainly some frustration that Formal initially said in the video, the fact that if there was someone who wanted to drop back in the Black Ops 3 days, it would have been Crimsix, or well, someone who you wanted to drop in your career but never did, that would have been Crimsix back in Black Ops 3. And then Crim started talking about the whole well, MVP prize money situation when they won the World Championship together back in 2017. Formal decided not to split the prize money. Certainly some frustrations about that. And well, things started kicking off to the point where we were hoping they would actually match up on LAN. Guess what? The very first event of the day is actually going to, well, I think it's the third game of today, is going to be Dallas Empire versus OpTic Chicago. Also, another great storyline here I wanted to mention is the fact that when OpTic were Chicago Huntsmen, they had, well, they didn't lose to Dallas last season, right? That was a big part of the discussion. I think Scump's talked about it certainly a couple of times. The fact that at the start of the season, OpTic, well, Chicago Huntsmen at the time, beat Dallas at the Minnesota home series, or like the opening weekends. Then they beat them twice at the London events. So they were 3-0 against the Dallas Empire on LAN. Then when it went online, I think they lost to them a couple of times, and there were some other things that happened, of course, but that was the whole online LAN discussion, right? Now this season, we're finally getting to see OpTic versus Dallas again, so I'm sure OpTic and Scump don't want to lose that record against Crimsix, just to say, yeah, we are always the better team in a LAN environment. And generally in these grudge match series, I think that OpTic tend to do particularly well. Obviously the fans think a similar thing, and football generally, like when there's a series where he really has to turn up and there's a bit of drama, a bit of beef on the line, he tends to play pretty well. We saw it the other day against Los Angeles Thieves, most certainly. So I think that OpTic should be favourites going into this one, but who really knows, right? It's back on LAN. I mean, things can switch up most certainly. I'm honestly just really excited to see which teams may face off this weekend. This is another storyline to mention, right? Because this happened last year, you guys might remember, roughly this time last year, between Mac Melts and some discussion with TJ. This is when Mac was kind of first coming on the scene. The pros hadn't necessarily fully accepted that he was at that level yet. People calling him onliners, this type of stuff, as it tends to happen at this point. But well, as TJ says, so Mac tweets this out right here, get dunked on because he won a series against Slackton Co at the time. And then TJ says, do something on LAN, brother, before you talk trash. Brother, you got blessed. Now, of course, very exciting stuff. Who knows whether New York Subliners will play up against Los Angeles Thieves? I believe that if I think it's actually possible, because if Thieves beat Los Angeles Grillers and they beat Florida Mutineers, which is going to be a tough task, no doubt, but if they do manage to get over line in those couple of series, then they will play the loser of Minnesota Rokkr versus Subliners, I believe. And that could well be Subliners, right, because they don't have the team they wanted. Decimate, of course, has come in. Asim is still stuck in Toronto right now, so really tough situation for them. I remember there was some discussion in the replies right here. Once events are back, you will see, says Mac Melt. So, well, we will see most certainly, right? Obviously a difficult situation for Mac to find himself in, as Slack says, you know, so this guy's got an ego over online league matches, so wanted to kind of bring this back to your guys' attention, because this was some of the major discussion, right, between some of the veteran pro players. TJ, another great example, because you could very well argue right now, the only reason TJ is in the starting team of the Thieves, given he's relatively underperformed this season, is maybe because of the LAN environment, right? They're going back to LAN, so there's pressure on TJ, there's pressure on these guys to perform, and I think especially the Los Angeles Thieves guys, they've talked a fair bit about it as well. And then you've got guys like Mac that really maybe don't have too much pressure, right? Maybe you can look at it from the angle that they do have pressure to prove themselves, but I think generally it's the pro players that have been talking about how much better they're going to get on LAN, and Mac Meltz has kind of sat there, you know, relatively quietly, even though, of course, back in May last year, he was talking about once events are back, you'll see that I can still well do this on LAN. Will that play out? Well, as we see later today at this weekend's, that is certainly something I'm going to keep my eyes on. If it doesn't happen exactly like that, certainly some storylines to discuss over these coming days. This then is the bracket for the weekend. So, on the winner's side, Subliners Rokkr, OpTic versus Empire. The winner of Subliners Rokkr, of course, plays FaZe. The winner of OpTic Empire plays Toronto Ultra, and then the loser's bracket is going to be an absolute gauntlet, but starting off with some matches that you may well be expecting at this point in time. So, these are the matches for today, the first 4 that you see on the left-hand side. Then there's 4 matches on the Friday, 5 matches on Saturday as they did before, including the winners final, as they have 4 teams make Sunday once against the Elimination Round 5, Elimination Final, and the Major Grand Final, as we did indeed see. So these are the 4 games of today. London versus Seattle Surge. Tough really to call this one. I think that I'd like to give it to London. I think that Surge probably should be like 55% favourites in this series. Probably have a little bit more firepower just to get over the line. And also you've got players in London which maybe haven't played at a LAN event for a while, and or maybe haven't at all, right? And you've got some kind of LAN veterans on the Seattle side, so probably they should be favourites, but maybe it's tough to read into that. Then LA Thieves versus LAG. I really think this is an interesting series. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes game 5. I want Thieves to win this though. I want to see them make some sort of run, right? Slasher in the lower bracket is always a force to be reckoned with, so I think the Thieves will get over the line here. Maybe a 3-1, maybe a 3-2. Probably won't be too convincing though. Then OpTic versus Dallas Empire. This is the most exciting series of the day, most certainly. And whoever, like if OpTic win this, they then play Ultra. That's a great series because it was a rematch last time they played them game 5 round 11 at the previous major to a load of viewers. So however this weekend goes, there's going to be some great matches, no doubt about it. This is certainly one of them. As I said earlier, right, I think that OpTic in these grudge match series generally get the better of the other team, and I think they should just be favourites in this series straight up with how good these teams have been looking as of late. And then New York versus Minnesota Rokkr. Tough one to call. I'd say Rokkr are probably favourites here, right, given Subliners don't have their proper team with a seam in. They've only got a couple of days to practice, and Rokkr have looked relatively good as of late. But if New York can win this, it will be very impressive indeed. For champ seeding and stuff, New York could really do with winning a good couple of series right here, but winning the entire event is obviously going to be a big question mark for them and a big difficulty, even though that certainly was their plan, right, hopefully coming into this with a seam, but not exactly how it has played out in reality these last couple of days. But intrigued to get your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube algorithm that you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care, and I will see you next time.